Aloha, Adam Apollo here, joining you guys on this beautiful 11/11 day with the unified experience and all of these amazing people all over the world coming together to share in a great vision of how we make a more unified and peaceful planet. Today, my offering to you all is an exploration of the depth of sovereignty, who we truly are, what we are truly here to do, and how we can access the deeper place of potential and purpose within us that reveals the path ahead, that clears the obstacles, that makes the dance a game, a playful expression of our souls spinning and moving and diving forth into the eternal palace of the universe in all the ways that we can be who we are and give our gifts to the world. So where do we start? Knowing ourselves. There's an old phrase, know thyself, inscribed above many temples of ancient days. And this statement, to know thyself, what does that truly mean? How can we know who we are? Are we who we are because other people look at us and see us a certain way? Are we who we are because our parents taught us to be a certain way, or society gave us certain frameworks to act and operate within it in certain ways? Are we who we are because of our friends in middle school, high school, college, work, life? Who are we really? And what are the boundaries of the definition that circumscribe this space of self-discovery? When we begin to actually ask that question, really diving into it, really getting in touch with the inquiry around it, what we begin to find is that a lot of the different constructs that we use to define who we are fall away, as much as dirty clothes that we pull off at the end of the day or after we've worked out at the gym. It is a dress we put on, a shirt we put on, a piece of armor we put on to name ourselves in a certain way, to claim a certain aspect of our own being. So you went to college and you learned a lot about anthropology and you earned this badge, the cultural anthropologist, and you wear that badge around, you wear those clothes around in the world, and you use that badge or that piece as a communication to the world of what you're interested in and who you are. Maybe you work on a job that explores, the ancient sites in different areas of the world and explore the ways that life moved and evolved and the ways that cultures evolved in those spaces. And so you speak about those things with your friends. You speak about those things to your family, to your loved ones. And as you do so, you reinforce that badge, you reinforce that clothing. But what happens when something else arises and that piece of clothing doesn't suit you anymore? When you grow in a certain way, you have certain realizations. Maybe the way that you've been speaking about an ancient site, a place in history. Maybe you're a archaeologist in Egypt, and you've spent all your time building up this story of how things went, how things evolved in Egypt. What really happened there? Well, there were these pharaohs, and there's this particular storyline that's been told over and over again for the last century. And, from the earliest guys who kind of made the assessments that the pyramids were built by some pharaohs during the golden age of Egypt, a few thousand years BC. And you've gone along with that story and you've reinforced that story, but then you start to have experiences and you start to notice things that don't fit with that story. You gain a mathematics friend who describes the pyramid and helps you understand that, it would require basically stones being put in place every 3 minutes over a period of 30 years, being moved literally 50 to 100 miles or down the Nile to be able to construct these spaces, that some of the size of the stones literally seemingly impossible to move into the positions that they're located in or you study the Serapeum and discover these massive, massive stone sarcophagi where there were supposed to be bull skulls and bull carcasses, and yet these things are laser sharp, perfectly engraved, 70 to 100 tons each in channels 150 feet underground. And parts of the story that you've held on to, the belief system you've held on to, begin to fall apart. And why does it begin to fall apart? Well, it begins to fall apart because you started to seek a deeper truth. You started to see that the story doesn't actually encompass the whole puzzle. And so through an inner space of inquiry and questioning the story you're told, you begin to gain access to new information. Now, some of that information might be way out there. You know, somebody might tell you that extraterrestrial spacecraft came down and built the pyramids, or maybe you watch the X-Men movie, X-Men Apocalypse, and you see this character, super mutant guy who just builds a massive pyramid in moments. And you get lots of different information into the space where you are holding this field of inquiry. Now, some of that information, of course, is not the truth. But if we hold all of the different pieces of information we're given, the little flags, the little points along the trail, the little markers in our journey, we begin to see that even among the markers that are not totally true and not totally accurate, the data that we get from media or from the news or from the story that the archaeologist told, even though it's not the whole truth, there's a little piece of truth in it. And we begin forming this sort of geometry of points of information that together begin to shape the architecture of a field of truth that is even more deep and present and relevant than anything you've ever known before. And that deeper truth has some very particular qualities. And these are qualities that we can also use in the exploration of knowing who we are. The quality of that deeper truth is that it connects to everything. It connects to the mythologies, it connects to the stories, it connects to the ideas, it connects to the hidden mysteries, it connects to all kinds of things. And so, in a sense, the deeper truth is only revealed through gaining enough points of light on the crystal to begin to see all of its facets, and then you start to understand its architecture. You begin to understand its form. So, how do we apply this to getting to know who we are? Well, we have many moments in our life where we could say we were being true to ourselves. We were being whole and full and in the truth of who we really are. And there are also points in our lives where maybe we acted or we did things that were not so much representations of who we want to be. But interestingly enough, even those things that we did where we created pain, where we struggled with shadows, where we lied, where we cheated, where we failed, these are moments that are opportunities for our evolution. And they're essential parts of ourselves that reveal our journey through time. Because those painful places might reveal the traumas that we experienced in childhood or in past lives. Those painful experiences might reveal some of the deepest things that we care about, including the deepest things that we're afraid of and the deepest things that we want to create and make changes around in the world. We tend to notice the shadows that we have the greatest power to transmute. We tend to notice the things in others that really, really bother us. The stuff that really irks us is usually stuff that we are also working on or have been working on. And maybe we've developed a little greater awareness of our own issues in that area. And now it's so obvious, when somebody else acts out using the same pattern that we've just grown from. And as we grow from it, we also gain compassion. We gain love. We gain the ability to begin unifying those parts of ourselves into us, accepting them deeper and deeper so that we can start to acknowledge that they are part of the whole crystal of who we are. They are part of this whole being that we are emerging. And each moment that we take in a reflection of ourselves, each meditation we do to travel into the past and find the moments of our regrets, of our pain, of our resistance, the moments maybe in other lifetimes where we made mistakes, where we made great triumphs, the moments throughout our being. As we look into ourselves, we begin to see that there is this incredibly gorgeous art that is us. And that art is both the rough strokes and the intense, painful places in our evolution and the gifts that those have given, that those moments have given us, the gifts that those moments have given us to become more of who we are, as well as the massive triumphs we've had, the great successes we've had, the awesome experiences we've had, those flags that we've planted that are the claims to the who we are that we want to be. And if we don't do that self-exploration, if we don't really look at and remember our lives, remember the time, remember our journey, remember all of the beautiful and painful points, then we cannot be ourselves fully. And when we cannot be ourselves fully, we cannot be sovereign. You cannot have a claim. You cannot be the royal center of your world. You cannot be the creator of your life if you don't understand your life, if you don't see your life, if you don't look at your own journey through time and appreciate it and accept it for what it is. Now, if that seems too abstract to you, let me give you a very simple example. If you go back in your mind to a moment in the past where you made a big mistake, maybe it was with a boyfriend or girlfriend or they friend, whatever kind of person, and you said something and you did something that you deeply regretted afterwards. And you go back to that moment so many times in your mind and you build a branch from that moment thinking about what would have happened if you'd have done it differently. And you wish and you dream and you imagine, if I'd have just done that differently, how many things in my life would be different now? How many things would have changed right after that? Well, here's the thing. When you build those branches, those alternate timelines, those alternate universes in your consciousness, it takes a huge amount of energy to actually envision and see and hold and feel and experience all of those things that didn't actually happen. It's like a fantasy storyline that you're building out this branch in a tree of your life from. But the tree, that branch, doesn't ever go anywhere because it never comes back and intersects with you right now. And so you've got this huge amount of your memory and your projection and your energy in the past that's now disconnected from who you are right now. And when that energy is disconnected because of shame, because of guilt, because of blame, because you projecting that you could have done something differently and you're imagining you've done that differently, well, then part of you is not here, is not present. And when you face similar things that require the lessons that you learned from actually making that mistake, you make the mistakes again. You fall into the same trap because you have now been experiencing and creating in the now, because you're still right here, right now, but you're creating the dream of doing something that is not you, that is not who you are. This is the power of story in our lives. And if we look in our lives and we look in society, we look across cultures, we look into the ways that we're taught about, say, how this United States, for example, was founded, how the United States of America came into being. Oh, wait, but we're saying of America, but what is America? Well, there's North America and there's South America, right? But Where did that come from? Oh, there was a guy named Amerigo Vespucci who sailed across the water and was just like, we're going to call this America. Let's name all these continents after me. Maybe he didn't say that, but somebody did. And the idea is that our entire story of what the America is based on something that someone came up with and passed down the line. Is the land under my feet actually called America? No. It doesn't have a name. I cannot know the land if I simply put the label of America on it. It's not going to work. It is absolutely distorted from the truth, because that is not the name of the land to the peoples who lived here before Amerigo Vespucci came floating across, right? So I'm missing this deep portion of the connection that I have to this world, to this space. They say when you look at the stars, if all you do is name them and point out the constellations and you never really pay attention, there's some people that never even see shooting stars. They've never seen one in their entire life, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me, because I've literally seen thousands and thousands of them. I've seen shooting stars come in and turn a 90-degree angle and fly off a different direction. Maybe not a meteorite. I've seen a lot of other amazing things in the sky. And I wonder, how is it that a lot of these astronomers who are big scientists have not seen it? Well, it's possible that because of the story of the academic world that's been told of what's okay to believe, that, you know, the most fringe area, if you want to be pushed out of the academic world, is to get into ESETI and the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or at least that's how it used to be, was so fringe that if you went down that road, you're basically committing career suicide. And because of that story, maybe a lot of the astronomers don't actually tell the true stories of the kinds of things they've seen in their love for the sky. And so we have all of these different ways that we're either accepting and aligning and buying the story of what is, or we are denying it, or we are resisting it, or we are rejecting it, and or maybe we have begun to pay attention to all of the different stories enough that are shaping our lives and our worlds, that we've started to build the architecture, the lattice of greater truth. We've started to see through all of those individual threads. And we've started to notice that there's something unshakable underneath them. And the unshakable thing is what has actually happened in time. The unshakable thing is the mistake that you made. The unshakable thing is the effects of the events that have come all the way to the present moment to give you this moment, who you are now. I'm not talking about truth in an abstract way. I'm not talking about sovereignty in an abstract way. I'm speaking to what it means to actually be a being traveling through time, having direct experiences and arriving into the moment. And every experience that you have had is part of the sovereign truth of who you are. And that part is unshakable. You can tell stories about it. You can perceive it in different ways. You can interpret it in 1,000 ways. You can create projections around it. You can divert from it. You can ignore it. You can deny it. You can be afraid of it, but it will not change. It is who you are. It is the stream that has entered the present. Now, from this place, this moment, we are in an event horizon. Using black hole terms, astrophysics terms, I like to do that as a unified physicist. In this event horizon, this moment of the event that exists right now, the barrier point, that crossing point between what has passed and already happened and what will happen next, this is the place. This is the place where we are in our command center. This is the center of our starship. This is the unified point. This is the place where we are being, experiencing itself. And if I can take in more deeply the stream of the past, the yin, the receptivity of all that is, all that has been, all that has been experienced, which actually, interestingly enough, is literally everything outside of you going off into the distance. Because as you look out into the universe, literally everything going out all the way to the stars, you're experiencing in this moment as a reflection of all of that moments in the past. In other words, if you look up and there's a star and it's 10 light years away, you're looking at that star right now as it was 10 years ago. If you look all the way out, you pull out a telescope, you look at the Andromeda galaxy, you're literally looking at hundreds of light years, hundreds of thousands of light years away. You're looking at hundreds of thousands of years ago. If you look back into the deep space Hubble views, you're actually looking back in time. And this is really interesting because what it says is that literally you are in a state always, in every moment, of receiving light information through the quantum vacuum fluctuations, through literally the photon rays flying off of a galaxy, eventually coming and literally going through the walls, through the roof, into your body, sometimes interacting with your cells, your DNA, your atoms. And you are receiving that light encoded information from basically the past. You are receiving the past, the entire lifetime of the universe, into your body right now. And what's even more interesting is that if we look at the structural geometry of the proton, we begin to see that the structural geometry of the proton is made of small quantum vacuum fluctuations. And it turns out, from my work and my research, and also based on Nassim's work around counting the number of Planck spherical units or Planck oscillators in the proton, he discovered that there's 10 to the 60th Planck spherical oscillators within the volume of a proton. Now, as you guys may have learned, protons and neutrons, as we call them, neutrons really are just protons, make up the nucleuses of atoms, and those atoms are surrounded by electron fields, and that literally forms everything. My body is made of atoms. This desk, this computer, these books, all of these things, they're made of atoms. Atoms forming different levels of complexity, of energy spinning in different ways, forming molecules, forming, etc. And the proton, which is actually the mass within the atom, the weight of the atom, the heart of the atom, the proton, it turns out that there's a direct correlation between the number of vibrations inside of a proton and the number of Planck seconds in time in the entire universe, because it's on the order of 10 to the 60th. So wait a second. What does that mean? There's the same number of Planck seconds in the universe as there is vibrations inside of a proton, little vibrational quantized units. Well, that would suggest that every single proton is literally embodying the memory of every Planck second in the entire universe. Every proton is growing with the life of the entire universe. This further proves the idea of the hollow fractal graphic universe, the nature of the everything in the everything. That within a proton, there is a holographic reflection of all that is. Well, yes, the proton is literally a memory form. It's a hard drive. It's a storage unit of information for the entire universe. Well, what are you made of? You're made of protons. Your entire system, your brain is made of protons. Your whole architecture, your whole infrastructure is designed as a system of memory, and that memory has continuity. Its continuity is the flow of existence itself. And the flow of existence itself, when accepted, when we receive all that time that is flowing into us, that is making us, it gives us an opportunity in this event horizon, this moment, to now create. We can now build something new. We can make something true. If we don't remember the mistakes we made in the past, we are not going to create anything that's different from those mistakes. If we can't see the falsehoods in someone telling you what you should or shouldn't do with your body, then you will not stand for the truth that you get to decide what happens with your own body. If you do not receive the gift of the memory all around you, of the wisdom all around you, of the people all around you, then unfortunately, you may not be able to see the power of your own creation, the power of your own potential, your own ability to do something completely different. If you go along with the stories that your parents told you, or that uncle or aunt told you, or that teacher told you, then you only know a small fragment of your potential, because you're going off of their story, not the true story. The true story is your own. It's your sovereign being. It is your health. It is your life force. It is your essence. That part of you that cannot be defined by anyone else, and good luck defining it yourself. You could try. You could say Jedi. You could say, I'm an anthropologist. You could say I'm a physicist. You could say, I'm a CEO of a tech company. You can do all these things to create stories and define aspects of yourself. But is it truly who you are? Because truly who you are means it's also the life that you spent, as an indigenous Lakota tribe guy living in the plains. It's also encompassed by your time as a Mayan. It's encompassed by your time as a samurai in Japan. It's encompassed by your time living in the Himalayas and meditating on top of a mountain. It's in the time that you spent in Atlantis, the time you spent in the Sirian star system, the time you spent in Pleiadian systems, getting to know the true vibrational waves and frequencies of relationship. It's in the time that you spent learning on Arcturus. It's in the time that you have existed. All of your existence in the entire life of the universe, that is the thread of who you are. If you are to know thyself, encompassing that into a phrase or a word or a statement will never, ever be enough. And the gift is that it doesn't have to be. It can be a mystery that is expressed real time in the living flow of your moment, the discovery of the game that you are playing, the discovery that all of this is a game, that the money is a game, that the health thing is a game, that the crises are games, that consciousness is playing in order to get to know and develop and acknowledge itself more deeply so that it can accept itself, so that it can love itself, so that it can embrace the truth and love and the beauty and the sovereignty of every life within the universe. We can begin to realize that the trees are banks of memory. We can begin to realize that the earth itself is an evolving field of memory, and that we are a part of that goddess, that the entire solar system is already a Dyson sphere. It's built with planets around it that are memory storage information within the gravitational lens that is traveling around the galaxy. That the galaxy itself is memory of many, many lives and many species and many beings, and it is unifying all that it is that is being created and expressed within it into the unity of the singularity at the core of that galaxy. That it is just a representation of life and love and spirit and soul expressing and experiencing itself, flowing in time. And so here we are. We are at this great juncture in our life here on planet Earth, a juncture where we can choose to see and look at how do we play this game? How do we get involved in a way that is going to serve the well-being of all life? How are we going to establish that we can know that we are the gift of our own health and our own sovereignty and our own being, that it is within us? It is not selfish. It is self-full. It is being aware that you are a gift to this universe and being aware that every other being is likewise a gift. They have their own particular magical special lens on the whole universe, unshakably. And so every person, every interaction is here to teach us. Every single thing we encounter is a message within the game. And when we start looking at the game in that way, we begin to see its patterns. We begin to see that there is a flow of purpose and that our choices are interconnected to the choices that are unfolding around us in the creation of all existence. This is our power and this is our sovereign will. This is what we are here to claim, and this is the liberation in claiming that we need to step forward as stewards of our planet and as part of a greater family of species throughout this galaxy who are learning how to care for life in deeper and more profound ways and acknowledge the existence and the gifts within all beings everywhere. So that's my offering to you today for this 11/11 unified experience. Thanks for riding with me in the waves and throes of my passion for this beautiful journey that it is to be alive. And I hope that you take some seeds of my words, reflect upon your own lives, and find the deepest current of who you are. Because who you are is the gift. That is the greatest gift. And who you are articulates the truth. That is perhaps the one and only thing that you can say is true, is who you are. Thank you very much. I'm Adam Apollo. Hope you guys come and find me in other places and other platforms. And this is the 11/11 Unified Experience. Aloha keaku.